You're not doing it for money. You're not doing it for power.
I also don't believe that you could be in the government and take insider trading.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's kind of the big issue. Hey, look. Do you know how
I agree.
Hey, do you know how I built my wealth and my portfolio? All I do is follow what Nancy Pelosi does, and I'm fucking
millionaire.
Yeah. That's a great. All I got to do is study what she does. What? Welcome to Mead Talk, where we believe that everything is better with mead. Now, in order to enter the realm of Mead Talk, the host and the guests must consume at least 3 glasses of mead. And we believe this dissolves the filters of the mind and allows for better communication amongst individuals. So come experience what comes out of mead drinking mouths. Now, I would like to say that this is a place where everyone can come to the table and have the hard, difficult conversations that need to be had in this country. Yes, sometimes we talk about things that matter, but are not difficult to talk about, and but also, we're not afraid of conversation. So sometimes we talk about the difficult conversations that do matter. So, but tonight we talk about the Constitution, the United States Constitution, that is. One of the longest-lived constitutions there is in the world, that was able to be amended and progressed into a time and period as an experiment that has completely changed the face of this world as we know it, and advanced technologies beyond our very reasoning. There's so many things that this Constitution that has allowed for the freedom of every individual that walks the country, and and extremely powerful military compounds. There's so many things that this country has done based off of this very Constitution. So, yeah, we will be reading through some of the Constitution. And trying to understand it. We'll be also probably reading through some of the Declaration of Independence and kind of bouncing back and forth between it. And besides, like, high school, right, we'll be able to kind of get a good idea and kind of revisit these ideas because, a lot of us did get to experience this in high school or go through the history lessons and stuff like that, or the civics lessons, but it's been a long time, and we believe that it is an extremely important document, and so here we go. So the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1776. July 4th, that is. That's why we all go out there on that glorious day, July 4th, and celebrate the independence that we declared. Hey, that was a great time. The independence that we declared from Britain, from the tyrannical rule. Now, obviously, there's a lot of history around that and why we declared that. There's a lot of taxation going on, a lot of foreign interference and in the lives of individuals across the board. So, and there are still very devout followers of the Britain, monarchy that existed over there here in the U.S. So, there's a lot of history that leads up to that point, but we're not going to go through that. This is solely based around the Constitution and what it was meant to be, and why it's here. Yes, we were, we were sort of established as a free country in 1776, but we weren't really a country.
We were colonies.
Yeah, we were a country beforehand, but there was no actual declaration of independence from the monarchy before that, right? We kind of did our own thing, but we were still like extremely taxed I sense that there's somebody that wants to say something.
We were wannabes in 1776.
We got a microphone right here for you, Brian, just for you.
Brian stepping up to the mic.
We were wannabes.
We were wannabe country, right?
1776.
Yeah, we were wannabes.
We were just like, we're ready to hit the stage. And then we danced out there because they trained us in the French and Indian Wars.
I agree. I agree.
It's a lot like the student becomes the master.
Yeah. Hey, look, we had to,
But
we
the
had to
student
start somewhere.
typically does it better.
Yep. And that's actually on purpose. That's.
I don't know about that. I do not think that's.
No, obviously. No, I understand that. Obviously, we try to teach our generations to do better than we did, right? And I believe that that our generation should do better. Where we're at right now in our country, I don't believe our generations are doing better. I think they're doing worse and worse and worse. But that's up for debate for another Mead Talk. Tonight, we talk about the Constitution. Now, so the Declaration of Independence was signed July 4th, 1776 by, I think, 56 delegates of the 13 colonies, which later on expanded, as we all know. But this Constitution was developed. So the Declaration was done in 1776. The actual Constitution was not done until 1787. And then it was ratified 1 year later, and it actually became effective in 1789. So 2 years later. So 2 years later, it finally became effective, right? So a little bit about the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. There's definitely a defining factor between the two, There's a defining factor between the two in the aspect of one of them is extremely passionate and kind of like a slap in the face to Britain, whereas the other is giving power to a nation, giving power to a governing body, but also restraining particular governing bodies from doing certain things.
Mostly
right?
giving power to the people to control said governing body.
Yeah, so putting checks and balances in place through a trinity, right? The trinity shows up throughout the entire Constitution, through judicial branches and in the entire executive order, legislative, and everything. So it's is that particular part of it is extremely important throughout the entire Constitution. But the Declaration of Independence was based off of natural laws. It was based off of, which everyone at that particular time, based off of nature and God and what their inherent freedoms were, right? For all men, because everyone was created equal, and every human being across this earth should deserve the same right to do the same things and develop in the same manner. Now, whether that happens, that's another debate, and another talk. But that was the whole premise behind the Declaration of Independence, that they believed that they were free from a tyrannical government. And
So a lot of people, when they discuss the Constitution, they'll say something about my rights, and I know my rights. What a lot of people don't understand is the Constitution was written and it's not about your rights, it's protecting your God-given rights. So the US was founded on a Judeo-Christian system. The Judeo-Christian system says you are a free person. You can live how you want to live as long as you don't interfere with other people, as long as you're not violent, say violent things, you can do what you want to do. So when you say it's my right, it's actually your God-given right that the Constitution protects. The Constitution is written to protect your God-given right.
Okay, yeah. So there's two parts to that, right? So, the Constitution was written to actually give power to a government because we didn't really have one before, right? But
Well, the Constitution's written to say
So
here is
I think-
established a government,
Well-
but the power is in the people.
so, but I think you're talking about the amendments, though, more so like the Bill of Rights, right? So, because the amendments 1 through 10 is also known as the Bill of Rights, right?
Yeah.
And so
Even
the
though
Bill
there's
of
like 26 amendments now.
Yeah, I know. I didn't go past 10 because they don't matter to me that much. So.
Yeah.
But actually, honestly, the first like two are the most important, right? But
Well, I'd say the first 5.
yeah, okay. I know the fourth. Yeah, the fourth and the fifth are actually pretty. What is the third? Do you know the third?
I
What?
don't. I know
Wait.
4th is.
I mean, we're jumping ahead.
Yes.
We're jumping way ahead.
I know. Actually, I know all the way to the 6th, except for the 3rd. If I'm going to be honest.
Yeah,
The 4th.
that's pretty interesting.
I know.
Do you know the third, Brian? No.
You know the 1st and 2nd.
It's because they don't want it. They don't want us to know the third, Brian. Right to bear arms. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Dave Chappelle says, free speech is if that doesn't work, then you have the Second Amendment. Yeah. I mean, that's why we have Mead Talk. Yeah, that's why we have Mead Talk. Hey, the coolest thing about this country is that we're able to talk without any prosecution whatsoever, right? That's the way we want to keep it. That's why I don't like communism, right? Because they will strike you down at every point that you try to say anything against their ill will, right? So, and there's a lot of people that come from communist countries that have come here and said, look, we're on the verge of that, and we need to redirect ourselves, right? And we're getting there. We need to change direction because we know what it looks like, and this is what it's starting to look like. And
I don't feel that pressure yet.
oh yes, yeah. See, you won't feel the pressure until it's there. That's the problem. Unless you see the signs. You gotta look to the stars. You gotta see the signs, Brian. You gotta see the signs, man. Yeah, man. This is Declaration of Independence. You can tell the poetry in the Declaration of Independence when they're talking about things. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. Man, that is just what beautiful lines that were written back then,
These
what
were
intellect.
very intelligent people.
Extremely intelligent.
Very knowledgeable
able
and
to
wise individuals.
able to analyze history
Because they've been there.
and foresee the future.
They understand human nature. That's the most important part.
We didn't. You got a mic up here, buddy.
Go ahead.
We need you on the mic. But yeah, so we hold these truths to be self-evident.
So
What is self-evident?
what
That
is self-evident?
Nuts. That is nut. That's common sense.
Yeah, that's
We
kind
hold
of
these truths to be common sense.
yeah.
That all men are created equal.
All men are created equal.
that they are
Wait a
endowed
minute.
by their creator.
I know where you're going with this because there's nothing in the law
wait,
that's
just-
systemic, if I'm going
Just
to be
say,
honest.
just say it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Okay, so that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator
Uh-huh.
with certain unalienable rights,
Yep.
that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Uh-huh.
Man, that is beautiful passion,
What
beautiful
does that-
poetry.
What does that tell you,
That
Brian?
tells me I'm listening to a political document.
No.
It's not a basis of governing, but a rally to arms. That's what I'm hearing.
Speak to the mic. Speak to the mic. Say that
I'm
again.
hearing a rally to arms. I'm not hearing any kind of basis of government. I'm hearing a rally to
Okay, yeah, the declaration was definitely not something that
It's a
said.
declaration.
It's a declaration.
Exactly.
It basically states, hey, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. It's a statement. Yeah, I agree. It's not a governmental document, right?
Here's my point. Anyone who invokes the Declaration of Independence in some sort of idea about how we govern ourselves is bullshit.
But why do you think that?
It's bullshit because this is a declaration. We're saying, hey, fuck faces, we're done. We're out of here.
I agree. It's not a
We
governing
are
document.
not
No.
dealing with
The declaration is not
Yes,
a
and
governing
we-
document.
It's in the title, the Declaration of.
It's not
Independent.
the Constitution.
No,
It is
it's not.
That came to follow.
Yeah.
The Declaration is
But we
saying.
think
And much later, yeah. So
The Declaration of Independence is saying,
not
hey,
much later, just a
we're
few
no
years later.
longer going to live by your tyrannical governing. We are now a free state.
anybody who says that the ideas in the Declaration are to be used in the governance of our country is doing misdirection. They're being dubious
Okay.
and not genuine.
Should we have
Okay,
stayed
wait a
under
minute.
the monarchy of England?
Wait,
I'm not talking about monarchy.
wait a minute.
I'm talking about being disingenuous.
wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. This serves as a platform for other people to declare their independence from a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
I mean, that is extremely important, I believe. I believe it's extremely important to be free, to do as you choose. Now, should I be persecuted for doing as I choose, I will do all day long and be persecuted for it because I believe solely that is my purpose here in life, to do as I choose, because I believe that I'm morally sound. Now, obviously, everybody has, issues, but I'll do as good as I can possibly do when I do what I do. Now, if that so happens to go against the laws or the so-called laws,
That's got nothing to do with what we're talking about, man.
yes, it does. The Declaration is extremely important because it shows that people can declare their independence from a nation that is tyrannical, right? And that it's happened in history.
It was, yeah, it's a call to arms.
Obviously,
man.
war was followed by this, right?
It's a
But
call to arms, yeah.
yeah.
I don't think that it justifies anything we're talking about. That's my point. I believe it is a completely political document, and it was masterful, wonderful.
It's beautiful.
Right?
It's beautiful.
It's such a
But you-
masterpiece.
You do understand
It
that
makes me a Jefferson worshiper, kind of. To be honest with you, I mean honestly, the guy was a fucking demigod. He killed it. He killed it.
so without
Rallied all these.
and you said a call to arms.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that a bad thing?
I don't think he's saying it as a bad thing. I think he's just saying that it's not the Constitution.
Yes.
It wasn't a governing document, right?
Right. And it's
got
not.
nothing
It
to
is
do
not a
with the
governing document.
governance of this country.
It does not. Absolutely.
Right.
That's where the
Here's the
Constitution
thing.
comes.
Well, look, here's
So-
the thing. When you listen, this is all I'm saying. I'm taking this opportunity in a public forum to say when motherfuckers come up and say, "Oh well, in the Declaration of Independence, it says.
Okay, yeah. Well, they're
No,
not.
listen, dude. That's not
Hey.
a governing document.
Right.
Hey,
That
that's
is just merely a statement of
Yes.
great claim.
I
Brian,
agree.
and that's why we're having this talk right now because people don't understand that. Okay, you know what? Do you know why they don't understand that? Because the powers that be don't want them to understand that. Otherwise, it would be taught in school, right? Because it's important.
Which it seems to me like it was, but
It was at one point. Yeah.
I'm old as shit. So.
Yeah. I'm not old enough, you know. So I'm not old enough, and but, sir,
Would you like to step up to the mic, David?
No, I heard you make a statement about life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
The way I see it is, when it comes to life and liberty, the government is not there to give it to you. They're there to
protect it.
not really protect it, but not stand in your way of pursuing it.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
And I
that's
think that's what a lot of people don't understand. They
Yeah.
think, oh, the government's here to give me this stuff.
Right.
And that's where you get all the welfare, the food stamps.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, you got to take care of me. I just don't have to earn it. No, that's not the way. That's not what the Constitution says.
Yep.
yeah.
It says the government gets out of your way and you go after this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I mean, whether you make it or not, you know, that's up to
That's
you.
up to you.
Right.
That's called capitalism.
Right. But then now,
Yeah.
now the government says if you pursued life, liberty, and happiness, then you're privileged.
And you're
Yes.
and you're oppressing somebody else.
Yes.
Right. Well, that's their whole term of privilege, I guess. Is that
But yet the
your
same
privilege
people-
is somebody else's oppression.
But the same
No,
people will
it's
buy
that-
stuff made in another country where they get paid pennies on the dollar
Or child labor.
or child
like
labor.
Nike.
Right. Well, when it comes to buying stuff in other countries, like right now, Russia is has one of the greatest economies anywhere.
Yeah.
And they people hear, oh well, the Russian ruble is only worth about a half a cent per dollar.
Yeah.
But Russians aren't spending their money on American products. They're
Right.
spending their money on Russian
products.
Yeah.
Makes
There's
a
a big
difference.
difference. That
So they
recirculation
can afford.
recirculation is important.
Right, they can afford what they're buying. Yeah, it may cost $30 to buy $30 American to buy a Russian washing machine,
Now
but it costs them, $150 or 150 rubles to buy it.
and nowadays you have all these, you know, Americans on Temu and Alibaba and all that kind of stuff buying all their products and everything and TikTok and everything, and which are other nations' products that are not serving our economy at all whatsoever. It's actually giving power to another nation, and we don't even think about that when we buy these things. We're like, oh, okay, it's cheap.
Well, yeah, but that also goes back to the life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. If I want something and I can get it for a price
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
way less than, if I want to buy a certain T-shirt that I can buy from Russia or China or,
Yeah.
or Europe for a tenth of the cost of what I can pay for it here, that's me pursuing something,
And see,
and the government
that's-
shouldn't stand in the way. But
That's where I think the federal government's
the government,
place
the
is.
U.S. government, should make it more.
the federal government's job strictly, in my opinion, is to be foreign relations. They should say nothing else about anything that anybody does with their life.
Okay, okay, but yes, but the Constitution does give power to the government for a number of different things.
Yes, but they also give more power to the states.
Yes, they do. Yeah, and so the states actually supersede the the actual federal government's power, right?
Yes.
Right.
Which most people don't know, right?
Most people don't know that each state has their own constitution.
Right,
Yeah.
and I mean, you hear a lot of people saying, "Well, Trump could have taken care of all the riots," but
Checks
any
and
president.
balances.
I'm not talking about Trump, but any president can't just send in the National Guard to dispel a riot.
No, that's up to the state.
Yes.
Right.
The state has power over the National Guard. The federal government has no say in what the National Guard does, period.
I just can't believe Biden's so president with all the stuff that's going on. It's come out. It just
I
It's
know.
mind-boggling.
There's a lot of there's a lot to everything that's going on
It's
in our
even more
world.
mind-boggling that people still supporting him.
Oh yeah,
I know.
supporting who?
Biden.
Who? Wait, hold on.
Yeah, that guy.
So, anyways, the actual formation of our government wasn't done until 12 years later, or 13 years later. Oh, yeah, thank you. And but 13 years later, in 1789, the actual formation of the government, because they realized that the Declaration wasn't enough, the states were acting on their own, regardless of their actions, doing what they wanted, all that stuff. They weren't really unified completely. They were the continental United States or whatever, but they weren't really the United States. They weren't really united because everybody was acting on their own. So they had to do something different. They had to give power to a federal government that would be able to reside over them, but also unify them in foreign relations, wars. They also determined like transportation between the two of goods and services, things like that, which is where like the Department of Transportation comes from, right? And they delegated all those things amongst the states as well, right? So those powers, those same executive, legislative branches and stuff, and judicial branches, were all delegated into the states as well. The states were given those almost the same hierarchy that was given to the federal government, right? So it was given power, but it was also given a jail cell, right? So it was like putting a jail cell around an individual and only giving them a phone to speak across the board and only control certain things. That was what the Constitution was there for. It was there to give power to a government, but also restrict the government from being able to do too much, too quick, and change things too fast, or do anything too radical for change. Why? Because the people, the founding fathers, the 56 delegates that signed the Declaration of Independence, which is known as the founding fathers, knew that people are inherently bad and will do bad things when given power to do so. So, what they did was they built checks and balances, is what we know it as today. They built inherent structures within the Constitution to minimize the effects of what could possibly turn bad, right? So, and that's the whole Constitution right there. Now, when you start getting into the amendments, it's about the Bill of Rights, right? But the Constitution's made up of several articles. I believe it's how many? I can't remember how many articles. I'm trying to see right here. There's Article 3, Article 5, Article 6. I think it's 7 articles. Yeah, so it's 7 articles, right? And it was actually ratified a year later. So there was major changes that were made a year later, and there's been amendments since then that have done tremendous amounts of things. Do you want to go through this first part of it, and I'm going to go to the bathroom.
All right. So we're starting at Article 1.
We're starting at the
The
preamble.
preamble. So the preamble of we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect nation or union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. So that's basically telling me that the 56 delegates, when signed, said, for this country that is now independent, this is how we perceive society to be. So, if we go to Article 1, all legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate of House of Representatives.
Where are we at?
Just went to Article 1, Section 1.
Okay. So, so the Article 1, Section 1.
That's just establishing the House of Representatives.
Yeah, so it's establishing a government, a governmental branch, right? The Congress.
Governing body. So
Yeah.
we're starting the process of checks and balances.
Yep. Section 2, the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states, and the electors in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. So we're establishing an electoral college amongst, and as well we're establishing a House of Representatives, right? So, and then the Section 3 establishes a Senate. So like the first article is really establishing the three branches of government, or the Trinity, so to speak. So there's a Trinity amongst Trinities within the governmental branch. And there's a reason for that, because they understand the natural hierarchies of the world, right? So, and they explain that within the Declaration of Independence, the nature that they are trying to establish a law upon. Why? Because nature rules all. Nature is above everything else. You can try to fight it all you want, but you will die eventually one day. And why? Because nature will take you out. Trust you me, it will happen. You will get old. And we will actually get into the aging process later on in another Mead Talk. But in nature itself, right? We got a lot to talk about nature. But that is why this is so beautiful, because there is a particular mathematical equation that is represented amongst all nature. Sacred geometry is that topic of discussion, but it is also represented throughout the Constitution and throughout the amendment process and everything that's interchanging amongst it, right? So all of these things are nature bound, right? So they are inherent. That is why they say that they are inherent rights to our liberty, our pursuit of happiness, and all of the things above. So, Section 3 is the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state. There is one state, Nebraska, that actually has 1 senator, because they said, screw everybody else, we're going to do our own thing, which is totally up to them. They can do that.
They are a state.
They are a state. They supersede the federal government. So Nebraska has 1 Senate representative. So while every other state has 2. Then it gets into like impeachment. So it establishes the vice president, the president, the Senate, what they're able to do amongst each other, how they're able to process things amongst each other, right? Impeachments, all of that stuff. Yes, sir.
Yeah, gentlemen, I heard you say there would be a superseding of sorts, and I wanted to know what that was.
Wait a minute. A superseding?
Yeah, so there was going to be some sort of superseding.
Oh yeah. So there's an inherent undertone amongst the entire Constitution and Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, and everything, right? There's an undertone, and it's natural law, right? So they recognized what the nature.
That's very fair. I will concur. Absolutely. Yeah,
We have a concurrence.
yeah.
We have a concurrence.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a.
When you hear superseding, it is a passing comment from afar.
It supersedes.
understand.
Catches one's ear.
Yeah.
So I had to walk up.
Hey, I agree. Yeah, superseding's a big word, right?
Yeah.
That's a
Because
lot.
that gives power over something.
Yeah, and so, but yeah, it doesn't. So maybe I said that incorrectly too, though. But like, it is something that is inherently bound within the contract of the Constitution. Something that is on the undertone of the entire document, right? And that is natural law. So how do we create a hierarchy that does not oppose natural law, right? So it does not oppose the way that nature acts. And why? Why would we even do that in the first place? Why would we follow nature? Why? Why would we follow nature? Because nature is never ending. It acts coherently amongst each other all the time.
To quote Jurassic Park, nature always finds a way.
Nature always finds a way. It is.
The
It's
nature of man
Look.
cannot outdo the nature.
Look at where you are. Look at where you are. If you're in a city, I don't care where you are, where you're at are right now. Go to your nearest forest. I guarantee nobody has spread fertilizer across that land. Nobody's done crap to water it. Nobody's done anything. I bet anything it will grow regardless. It will produce fruit regardless. It will breed natural habitats for animals, everything that coexists simultaneously within that environment, and there ain't nothing we can do about it.
Without a governing body.
We can cut all the trees down on the earth, but you know what that's going to do? It's going to kill us, and then everything will thrive. This is the problem, is we think that we are above nature, that we can do whatever the hell we want, but here's the thing. We have to exist with it, right? And we have to utilize it to our advantage and the advantage of the entire earth.
Back to section 3.
Back to section
That's
3.
a different
Sorry.
Mead
Yeah,
Talk.
that's a totally different. We'll get into that when we have Shane Kelly on board.
Yep.
Which was the owner of Interstellar. He's going to be on here soon on the Mead Talk, and we're going to get into a little bit of permaculture, sustainability, those sort of things.
Yep.
But we're also going to get into creating a business within the alcohol industry, especially in Alabama, which is not fun.
That's been done before, but not a lot.
So Section 3 gets into the Senate. It gets into impeachment processes, vice president. Let's see, it gets into.
I think we've all dealt with that the last 20 years.
Yeah, we've seen plenty of impeachments over the last 5 years.
And we would love to see some people in the Senate go away and serve their term. And I'm a firm believer in, if you're in the Senate, you do it for free.
You can't do a jumping jack. You can't be a fucking senator.
If you're a senator, you do it for free.
If you can't do
Why?
that,
Why would you be a senator
Wait a
for
minute.
free? Because you love this country. You're not doing it for money. You're not doing it for power.
I also don't believe that you could be in the government and take insider trading.
Yeah, that's a good
I think
point.
that's
Yeah.
kind of a big issue.
you should have to.
Hey, look. Do you know how
I
Hey,
agree.
do you know how I built my wealth and my portfolio? All I do is follow what Nancy Pelosi does, and I'm fucking
Fucking
golden.
millionaire.
Yeah. That's a great.
Do
All I
you
got to do
agree
is
with
study
that?
what she does.
I think we are more in line than Brian thinks we are.
Nah, Brian and I've had some serious talks now.
Oh, I know. We have too. We're going to have him back on the show, obviously.
Yeah,
it was
last
a really
week-
good show.
Last week we had Brian on. It was
It was
really
a
awesome.
really good show.
was
He
really
wanted to
awesome.
show up tonight and see what it was like being on the other side.
I don't think he's on the other side of anything. I
He's
think,
on. He's not. He doesn't have the camera on him. That's the other side. Right? Yeah.
But so then we get into section 5. So each house shall be the judge of
House
the
of
elections, right? Returns and qualifications of its own members, and a majority of each shall constitute a quorum to do business. But a smaller number may adjourn from day to day and may be authorized to compel the attendance of absent members in such manner, and under such penalties as each house may
That
provide.
makes me feel like we should go over there and put some.
Wait a minute. Wait, what? What?
Say it in the microphone, Brian.
What you just said makes me feel like we should go over there and anchor some handrails in that concrete.
Right beside us.
Right
should.
beside us.
And that's as explicit as I will get.
Yes.
Right? So, this section gets into the sessions of Congress and how they should act, how they should represent each other, how they should interact between each other. Same with Section 6, it gets even more. That their compensation should be paid out by the Treasury. We also get into accepting gifts, like judiciary, like people accepting gifts and stuff like that. I mean, it's it's kind of it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, there's so many things written into this Constitution, into this small document. Okay, the Constitution is a very, very small, but it's left open as well, right? So, just no. So I like to be that person. I like to question things, right? So that's how I became who I am today, because I question every freaking thing that comes across my view, my senses, everything. I question everything. And why? Because I want to know, is it true? Is it real?
Truth. That's the key. Truth. Truth.
We had a discussion earlier with a person at the bar about truth and that how people see colors differently and stuff like that, and what is real truth and all that stuff, because this person may see yellow, and we're all taught to say that this is yellow, but they may see it different than we see it and all that stuff, which is totally, but you're talking about a color, right? But we all see it as yellow, which is the truth. So your yellow might be different than my yellow. I understand that. But there might just be a slight difference. And that's only due to the interpretation that our brain has of it, right? But it might be ever so slight. It might be drastic because you might be colorblind. I don't know. But there are inherent
Mead Talk.
truths.
Colorblind, whole different conversation. I have a different opinion on that. I have a whole different opinion on that.
Yeah.
But carry on. Sorry.
But I mean, no, you're good. You can interject in at any time, Robert. So I can rant for days.
I know. I can too.
But still the fact remains that everybody sees it as yellow, right? For the most part. Normally, everybody sees it as yellow. We've come to a consensus, right? Well, so there was a particular study at which there was an indigenous tribe that could not see the color blue, right? So they went to this indigenous tribe, and they put up a bunch of green circles, and they put one of the green circles, it was a blue circle, and they could not see the difference in all the circles. They said all of them are the same. Until they pointed out the one that was different and related it to a blue, and they said, oh, now we can see it. Now we know that it's different. And then from there on, they gave them other examples or other sheets that they were able to look at, and they were able to point out the blue color. But before that, they were not able to actually see it. Now, that's a complete difference, because it just has to do with the information that's obtained in order for you to process what's around you, right?
So I have to ask one question. Hey, can I get everybody's attention, please? I'm going to ask one question. I'm going to see how many people can answer this one question. And it's not more or less a question, but it's a statement, but I need you to finish it. Remember.
The 5th of November.
Thank you.
Do I get a prize?
You do.
You should.
Give her 30% off of her tab. She won. Does anybody know what that came from?
They burned down the parliament.
They did.
Going to.
But what movie?
V for vendetta.
Yes, ma'am.
Dang, she's on
Absolutely.
point.
And that has a lot to do. That has a lot to do with the Declaration of Independence.
We had to add some trivia in here tonight, Mike.
Yeah, Mikey. Not your fault, Mikey. We love you, Mikey. We love you. But Mikey, we love you. Mikey, you're my boy, Blue.
You're my boy.
You're my boy, Blue.
You're my boy.
But that's a damn good movie.
I'm okay. Yeah.
He has very low expectations.
They're not low, they're not high, it's just wide. Yeah.
They're just across the board.
Do y'all know she is a
You know that you've been to
graduate?
Ukraine, right? Look, you know. Hey. Look, that's because you've been to Ukraine, and
Hey, not every Ukrainian woman is.
Look, I texted Natalie. She's a Harvard grad. We need some intellect here. Not that y'all aren't intellectual, I'm just saying. We're trying to get her on. I texted her. She said, yeah, let me work it out on my schedule. So, but we'll have a call.
Graduate doesn't mean anything.
it really doesn't.
It does not. I mean, but I'll be honest. To be a Harvard graduate, you have to have a certain level of intellect. Actually, I take that back. You're more intellectual if you quit Harvard and start a business than if you stay in Harvard.
Why is
You
that?
can't. You can't be. You. Why?
What do you call a doctor that graduated from Harvard?
A practitioner.
A dentist.
Okay, that makes sense. Doctors and practitioners, and that's a whole other Mead Talk right there.
Hey.
The only reason we're talking about this right now is because we got to Section 7, and that's all we have, so.
We already got to Section 7. Wow, we're pretty good.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna chime in real quick, and I'm gonna.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody at the bar. There is proof that a college education doesn't make you smart. It's
Yes.
named Rachel Maddow.
It's what? What?
Rachel Maddow?
Rachel Maddow.
Okay.
She's a news anchor for MSNBC or ABC or something.
Yeah.
She's got how many degrees from different schools? One of the dumbest people on TV.
Yeah.
I guarantee.
Well,
I guarantee
honestly,
you know more about the Constitution than
Oh,
she
absolutely.
studied in 5 minutes.
She probably doesn't even know where the Constitution came from. Let's be honest.
You're right.
Let's be honest.
she probably thinks the Constitution is racist,
Yep.
which, a lot of people nowadays do believe, which is crazy to me.
Yep.
Why?
Come on up, Brian. Tell me what you
Why?
think.
That's,
You
hey,
open that can of worms.
wait a minute. Wait
Tell
a
me
minute.
what you think,
Brian. Hey, Brian. We are. Look.
But you
hey,
are. That's why we
Hey,
love
buddy.
you. Come on.
Hey, buddy. We're not here to discuss easy things. We're here to
Brian just
discuss
opened
difficult
Pandora's box.
things. Difficult things.
You just said, man, if there is ever a document that's racist,
Why is that?
Why is that?
because of the slavery allowance, in which it strictly said that we're going to
Yes.
ration off in this certain period of time.
3/5 of all in other persons. Yeah.
That
Which is still in the Constitution today. Do you know why it is still in the Constitution?
I'm wide open to know, man. It
Okay.
is
Because it was amended.
Well, no. No, that part was not. No.
But there's an Emancipation Proclamation.
Wait a minute, though.
You have to coincide
Yes.
with royalty.
Hey, was
And
there-
royalty is
Okay.
royalty.
Yeah, totally. So in the beginning, yes. But that is why the amendment process was put into place, right? Because we knew that we'd have to change things. Now, obviously, some of the language in slavery was taken out of the Constitution with one of the amendments, right? Now,
Nevertheless,
Nevertheless,
It is
the three.
completely permits
Okay, so it talks about citizens
ownership of people.
in the electoral. No, okay, yeah, that was in the beginning. And why? Why was that, though?
Because slavery was the norm.
Because
Yes.
slavery was the norm.
Yes.
That's why. But did you hear the first part of the Declaration of Independence that
I was
that
gonna bring
started?
that up.
Here you go. Here you go.
No, I know they're different.
Uh-huh.
You just.
I know they're different,
just-
but they
just-
are
The
different, but they're one and the
Declaration led
same.
to the Constitution,
Just a call to arms, man.
They're different, but they're one and the same.
but it led to the Constitution.
I understand. I understand.
Do you know who the? Do you know? Do you know
One
what?
is a governing document and one is merely,
Do you know the first country
merely a call
that
to
banned
arms.
slavery is?
And listen, dude.
Do you know the first
Cannot
country that banned
tell
slavery?
me that the Declaration of Independence has any bearing on legal precedents.
It does not. That's the
It
Constitution.
is just, it's what got us all to believe in a thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
In what? Equality amongst every person of the earth.
For the pursuit of life.
It's not law, man.
Do you know the?
Not
Do you
the
know,
Constitution.
Brian? Do you know the first country to get rid of slavery was?
That was America.
No.
No.
America was third.
80 years.
Britain.
Britain was the first one to get rid of slavery.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I believe it was England after that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and then it was the United States.
A lot of people believe Britain, UK are one and the same. Essentially, most scholars agree that it was the UK and it was the US. That's the order, first
Yeah.
and second.
I think it's ironic that 2/3 of Africa, I'm sorry, 2/3 of the countries in Africa haven't abolished slavery.
No,
No.
it still exists to this day.
Yeah, and so even up until the 1950s, and there's declarative letters across the United States and the Middle East in the 1950s saying, "Why will you not release our people?"
No.
There is, I mean, this was far beyond the release of, or the freedom of slaves in the United States, right? And why? Why was the United States that way? Because they declared all people to be equal. Yes, it took some time. It took
yeah.
some time, of course.
But I mean, Rob brought up the Emancipation Proclamation,
Yeah.
and that,
You know-
that in itself is a whole story right there.
Yeah,
It
but
is.
it's
I
Mead
have,
Talk.
I have studied history from east to west, north and south.
Yeah.
Get in the mic so everybody can hear you.
Okay. I have studied history from east, west, north, south, every avenue that I could think, and it amazes me how many people don't want to come out of their comfort zone and say, "Oh, the Civil War was all about slavery."
It's not.
No,
it wasn't.
Now,
It was about taxation. It was about the dollar.
I can tell you that Lincoln was not a slave owner, but he was one of the largest advocates for slavery. He left letters to his wife after he was.
I'm not saying
after
it
he
was.
After
Look,
he was killed, he left letters to his wife saying that certain people need to be shipped back to their home countries
Yes.
because he believed he was
But at the same time, his second-hand man was a black guy.
right.
I don't think Lincoln gave a fuck about slavery.
No,
I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
And that's why the Civil War wasn't about that.
the
Yeah.
timeline of the Civil War proves that it was not about slavery.
No.
Right.
Civil War started
1813-ish, 1812.
1886, right?
That.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it did.
You're talking. Yeah.
Or, maybe
But we're talking about,
1887.
hold on,
You're talking about the revolution, maybe.
I might be.
No. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll let Rob look up the year. But
1861, so you're right.
okay, 1861, the Civil War started.
Yep.
The Emancipation Proclamation was 1863.
Yes.
That timeline right there proves that the Civil War was not about slavery. What it was actually about was Lincoln was invested in the railroad.
Yes.
He needed supplies from the southern states, steel, cotton, food. He didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah, you do know that he was also developing a U.S. dollar that was non-taxable,
Right.
and that was a big issue.
He didn't want to pay for the products and the work craftsmanship and the workers from the South. He didn't want to pay what they wanted. So he attacked them. That's all the Civil War was about.
And if you develop a form of payment that's not taxable, there's a reason to take somebody out.
You guys do realize that that's why Kennedy was
You
killed as well.
understand? JFK got executed because he didn't want to. He didn't want the F. What was it?
And that's why digital.
He wanted to stay on the gold
Federal
standard.
Reserve.
That's why the government loves digital currency. They can tax it whatever they want.
Exactly.
They
JFK
can
wanted to
set
stay
their
on the
own
gold
value.
standard. There's a reason we got off the gold standard.
Yep, Nixon took us off the gold standard in '71.
Yep. And we got.
Oh!
Brian is a very intelligent
Yeah,
man. I wanna hear
Nixon
what
should
he
be in.
says.
Yes.
Nixon should have gone to jail.
Yes.
He should have been imprisoned and probably put to death.
And just like Biden.
Bad shit, crazy. Didn't give a fuck what the people around him thought. He was like, I will fucking fuck with the goddamn
Yeah, so
wages you can make. I will put
hey,
a cap on
you got to be in the
wages.
mic, man, so
Yeah.
people can hear you. Got to be in the mic. That's
You can
what-
move the chair over there if you want, Brian.
Nixon is the most OG president.
Okay, so
in history, man. Nixon was the
I think Reagan was the man.
Yes.
Fuck Reagan.
Reagan was badass.
Well, when the Marines died in Lebanon, what did Reagan do? He put his tail between his legs and he fucking limped out of Lebanon.
Biden also sent over 13
Listen, this ain't
U.S.
about
soldiers
Yeah,
This
it's
to
not.
death.
Biden.
It's
This
not
ain't
about
about
Biden,
Biden.
Robert.
I'm not
We're
gonna
talking
defend
about
that
Nixon.
senile,
But it's conflicting.
maudlin
Reagan.
old dude. Yeah,
But it's
ain't about that
conflicting.
piece of
Something
shit.
we agree on.
I'm talking about Ronald Reagan, which is the most deified piece of shit in my life.
Ah, but you gotta love his jokes.
His joke, exactly. Great.
He was an actor.
He could deliver
Yeah.
a line like nobody's business.
What
man. He
what
could
did
kill
Nixon
it.
do for the economy?
Nixon
Right, we're only on section 7 of Article 1.
had backbone
Oh,
like
shit.
no
7
other
articles. That's why I said it's going to be
man
multiple
in
meat
his
talks.
part in his time. Man, he froze wages. He froze wages. And his party went batshit.
So he spent money like the U.S. has it.
There's a little more pina colada.
Nixon
I am good.
froze wages, man.
I'm good.
Because the situation that's going on
Thank
in
you.
the country.
If you can grab me a water, though, that'd be fantastic. Appreciate you, man.
That dude was badass, man. He
Nixon?
didn't give a fucking Nixon, man.
Okay,
Nixon
So-
was a real man.
so Ryan,
Uh,
I have not studied Nixon enough to know
we might have
everything
somebody
that
else
you're
coming up
talking
to the
about.
mic. Nope, she's
But-
going outside.
We're so hopeful, so hopeful. But I have not studied him enough to know what you're talking about exactly. But what I do know
We know the Watergate
is
scandal,
He's crazy.
but does that
Bad
justify
shit
him?
crazy.
But
I
does
do know
but
that
does
he's
it
isn't he the only president to resign from his
I don't know that.
I believe he's the only president ever to resign because of what he was involved with, and then the next president,
Got it,
his
ma'am.
predecessor, pardoned
See
him.
you Thursday.
Yes,
Hey,
ma'am.
We love
I
you.
may see you Thursday.
Hey,
Yeah,
we love you. And you will
possibly.
see me pending emergencies. Well, hey, I love that shirt. It's a beautiful shirt.
Yes.
Vintage. I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You need to be here every Mead Talk because we don't
know,
get this
man.
kind of service from our own bartenders.
I know.
Jeez.
My daughter is hangry.
Not only, but we've got very good, like, contradicting voices and opinions, and yes, we do too. Like we love Brian. His point of view is phenomenal.
So yeah,
No,
so
it's only an
but
opinion if you can't back it up with fact.
Yes, exactly.
exactly.
I
I want to see it. I want to see it.
Hey, we can scan it and post it. Okay.
So so here's the so I don't think that every person that's been in the presidency, except for Jimmy Carter and Joe Biden, is a bad person, right? I think that they've done good things.
He was bad, but he wasn't half as bad.
Hoover's debatable.
Hoover was probably one of the worst.
Yeah.
Bad karma.
Do you know why Hoover was probably one of the worst? Because he rewrote, or wait, was it Hoover or Wilson?
Wilson is the
Rewrote
guy
what?
that I detest.
Yeah, because he wrote our history books.
Mom.
And he left out all like the black history and everything because he was a fucking KKK member. Yeah, he was like, he wasn't KKK member because that wasn't developed by the Democrats until later. But yeah, yeah. But he
That's why the only thing they named after him is a drawbridge.
yeah, yeah, and so he left out a lot of key things that needed to be in our history. To direct people a particular manner. Hello there. You brought somebody. Heck yeah.
My daughter.
Oh, awesome.
She brought me food.
Oh, fantastic.
She didn't bring me any. Just saying.
But so we yeah, this is why I mean
God, we gotta get Brian back up here soon.
yeah, I know, man. We're an hour in and we've barely even gone through Article 1.
I know, it's ridiculous.
That's the thing. So okay,
So
section
let me ask Brian this. From the outside looking in, what do you think? Pretty crazy, isn't it?
you notice a little more, huh?
Right?
You're like a coach on the outside, right?
Uh-huh. Those who can't coach.
You have to play.
So, Section 8. It establishes the power of Congress to
Just
collect
lays out the
taxes,
power. Yep.
duties, and all the powers of Congress, basically. To regulate commerce with foreign nations, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Does everybody know what naturalization is?
No.
Naturalization is the process of bringing immigrants into America. That is the process, naturalization. That is a process that should be uniform across the board so that everybody that comes in is actually a contributing contributing to society. Hey, you know what's also hard to do? Start a fucking country out of nothing that has its checks and balances and do everything else. It's hard to do, but you know what's really cool is they actually go through how to do that in the Constitution. It's pretty freaking, it's right there. In Section 8. Yes, people.
When you've had time to think about it.
Brian, all we ask is that you put the mic in front of your face, brother. We understand that it's difficult. But it's also very well constructed within the Constitution as to how to do it, right? Some of the different things that Congress is able to do is to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Why? Because we're freaking retarded and we went to the standard of measurement.
Extremely important. You have to
So
have-
dumb.
You have to have a set standard of weights and measures, man.
Yeah, we already had a standard. I don't know why we had to go off on these
Feel
other
like-
standards.
Feel like we had a standard? We
Yes.
already told them to fuck themselves, so we gotta establish.
It doesn't mean we have to do everything new, Ryan. It just means that we have to do everything that's
Means
important.
We have to copy what they had.
Yeah,
That's
well,
it.
okay.
You're right, but it. That's all I'm saying.
I think pounds and ounces and grams and all that bull crap is bull crap. I think it's crap.
I think it's like follow whatever works.
I think kilograms,
I'm a
milligrams,
bigger fan of
micrograms, all that is.
fan of that.
I think that is much more precise. Why? Because it's 1/1000th of each other.
Makes a
So
whole
easy.
lot more sense.
Kilometers, meters,
Preaching to the fucking
it's all 1/1000th of the other, right? So it's so easy to do. But the mile versus feet versus inches versus, it's like, wait, a mile's like 5,127 feet or something like that. And then the foot is 12 inches and the inch is, I don't even, 1/16th. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that? That's bullcrap.
It is not something that a normal person could follow logically.
No.
There's no logic.
No. Even the English language is completely half backwards from every other language out there. The grammar is backwards completely.
I believe that.
This is a whole other Mead Talk. But because the grammar is backwards completely than every other language, it's also given birth to some of the most poetic language. It's also given birth to the best music.
I think that's fair.
I think that is fair. I think that is very fair. The English language has given birth to many things, but I also think that every language has its purpose within different motivations, different feelings, different bounds, right? So, and that's actually, that's a whole other subject, though, because I believe that language is extremely important. How it's spoken, how it's done, how people express themselves. We're getting really close, but I really have to go to the bathroom, so you're gonna have to take over from here.
Yep, I'll end it.
Wait a minute.
We got a section 9.
We got a section 9. You want to go over some of the section 9?
I'll get to section 9. All right, so the migration or importation of such persons. This is just going over immigration, which apparently no longer is applicable to the U.S. We just let anybody in. There's no process except for crossing a river. I don't understand that because we cannot do that in any other country. We cannot just show up and say, hey, I'm now a resident. So why would it be different here in the U.S.? I don't know. But out of Section 9, we now know that Congress has the power to set the rules for immigration. So the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when it cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it.
What does that mean?
I think that's a whole other Mead Talk just on that sentence right there.
Yeah. So
Means they can't throw your ass in jail for nothing.
is that what that means?
No.
That's what I generally took it to mean. They can't throw your ass in jail for nothing.
No, well, this has to do with crossing the border. This has to do with illegals and so on and so forth. So from my understanding is, if you cross the border illegally, you have no constitutional rights to the U.S. Why?
Because you have to go through the process of naturalization. to
Because
become
you're not a citizen. The Constitution only applies to citizens.
Yes. Well, it also applies to 3/5 of other persons, right? So, wait a minute, though. That is written into the Constitution.
It is.
Why is it still there? Why is it still there, Brian? Why? Do you know why?
I know why.
I know exactly why. Because the electoral college is determined based off the citizen count of that state, right? So if you can count 3/5 of every person that is not a citizen, then you get more electoral votes, right?
Yep.
More in the electoral college. That is why there are so many illegal immigrants into
California.
states, particularly that want more of the electoral college votes, because that's still in the Constitution. So they'll only follow the Constitution when it matters to them, and they won't amend that part of it, right? I'm just saying, that's still there. Still there. So, okay, there's only one more section, and then we got to end this, and then we'll get into Article 2 next time we go into the Constitution. No state, so this is Section 10 of Article 1, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills, credit. So basically, says they shouldn't do anything that the federal government is over, right? So like any of the but it gives some leeway in that, right? So it says no state should enter into these contracts, alliances, confederation grant, or all that stuff, right? It also says that no state should basically enter into war or anything like that without the federal government, which is actually Congress. Congress are the ones that are supposed to declare war, but we've been into how many freaking wars without declaration from Congress over the last freaking 20 years, dude? Ridiculous. 40 years. 40. How many fucking wars have been unconstitutional? 60? 60 wars.
60 years.
Oh, 60. Okay, 60 years. Yeah. It's probably more than friggin' 60 wars that we've been in.
Vietnam was declared war.
It wasn't declared. There's so many things. There's so many undeclared wars that we've been in that are unconstitutional, that should not have happened unless Congress declared so. Besides that, it does have some leeway for states. It says unless it's being invaded and there's no time to declare war by a state, that state can take up its arms and it can declare against a particular enemy, right? So it is written into the Constitution that if being invaded by a foreign border, like say Texas, being invaded by illegal immigrants
From Mexico.
by the cartel,
So what constitutes an invasion?
that's a good question. That's why it's left up to the states, I believe.
So if
so it may
Texas-
be in here, and we haven't gotten to that.
So if Texas says, hey, I declare on war on Mexico because of the invasion of illegal immigrants. Per Article 9 or Article 1, Section 9, they have a right to declare war. Right?
On the river, got my camera, he takes pictures, but shit, he feels threatened. So he declares war.
Okay,
But is that
here's
not-
how it's determined, right here. It says, no state shall without consent of Congress lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in time of peace, enter into agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay.
Imminent danger. What does that concede? If a state says we are in imminent danger because of this, this, and this, and they can prove that, what's to say they can't take up their own freaking right to do what they have to do? Yes, it's vague.
Yep.
It's vague. I understand.
Yep, it's open to interpretation.
I think it's somewhat open to interpretation. I think we all know what it means. But, I mean, it's as if saying, yeah, somebody just like tried to move into my house and, my doors were locked, but they broke down the door and they were totally peaceful. They were totally peaceful, but, they ate all my food and they were sleeping on my couch and they were, doing whatever, like, walking around naked around my children and all this crazy stuff, Who's in imminent danger, Like, at what point do you do something about it, right? At what point do you do something about it? There obviously has to be a line that is drawn. And I think that the states have the ability in that situation to draw that line and determine that factor. That is Article 1 of the Constitution that we finally got through.
Yep.
It's a very short document, but it is so deep. So deep. And I think that people need to understand what it is and what it does and what it actually gives power to, but also what it takes power away from. I think that's even more important, right? So, and we'll get to that eventually. Unfortunately, on this Mead Talk, we will not get to that.
It's been a little extended.
It's just as every Mead Talk, we go
I know.
over an hour.
It's a damn good conversation.
It's a damn good show.
Damn good show.
But thank you so much for participating in this Mead Talk. We'll continue on Article 2 of the Constitution next time we do the Constitution, which will be in about a month and a week from now. We'll do the Constitution again. We have several guests lined up for the next few weeks. It's going to be very interesting. We're also bringing other guests on later on in the year. Thank you so much for participating in Mead Talk.